The whole thesis behind community, right? Sports community is just how do we tap into what's the most convenient way for those people to connect with each other. There's an energy there that I think you want to replicate, and you want to share that experience with fans and other people that you know.
Welcome to Future of Fandom, the podcast where leagues, teams, and federations learn how to turn passive viewers into loyal superfans through gamification, loyalty, and next-gen engagement. Let's build what's next together.
Hello, everyone. I'm Miheer Walavalkar. I'm the CEO and co-founder of LiveLike. Welcome to another episode of Future of Fandom. Today, we have on our podcast Matthew Duarte from Yes Network. Thank you for joining us.
Happy to be here, Miheer. Good to see you.
Why don't we just get started with a little bit about your background? Tell us who you are, what you do, what your role is within the organization as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you mentioned, my name's Matt Duarte. I am the Vice President of Strategy and Business Development at Yes Network. I get asked this question a lot, but it's really hard to kind of pin down and just give a descriptor of exactly what I do. It's pretty dependent on the day and the week. But I think at a high level, helping out our senior executive team and our CEO, John Littner, on strategy for the business. And that kind of touches on a lot of the different verticals and buckets that we work on, whether it's the affiliate revenue and relationships that we have, ad sales, production and programming, working with our CFO on budgeting and board deck preparation for our board, and really trying to work towards any new business initiatives and opportunities that we might have. The big day-to-day operations, I would say, that I've been doing over the last few years specifically is on the digital side. So formally helping build and launch our whitelisted Yes app, which we had and launched in spring of 2021 and sunset last October, and giving a new way to our new streaming solution, the Gotham Sports app, which is a joint streaming solution with our partners at MSG Networks. So having all of the regional games on Yes and MSG networks for the Yankees, Knicks, Rangers, Nets, Islanders, Devils, Sabres, and really all of the different programming and original programming that we have all in one place. So a lot of different features and functions and ways to monetize the streaming solution, and it's evolved and grown in different ways over the last few years. So I'm sure we'll get into all that, but that's really been taking up a lot of my time.
Yeah, no, I can. I understand why you say that you wear a lot of hats. Clearly there's having worked with you guys now for the past few years, I can appreciate that you are a small but efficient and powerhouse team.
Definitely. We got a lot of great people here that kind of do a lot of different things also. So it's really fun. There's never a dull moment.
Exactly. Actually, why don't we get a little bit in your background? Obviously, you're wearing a lot of hats. So what prepared you for it? I know your career has spanned investment banking, stint at MSG, a lot of different roles across the years, over the years. And now, you're running pretty much a broad spectrum of strategy across different parts of the business. So maybe tell us a little bit about your background and what prepared you for this.
Yeah, absolutely. So first role out of undergrad, I went to Amherst College, was in corporate banking, actually. So credit underwriting for Wells Fargo, which was really different and fun for me. Our group was geographically focused instead of industry specific. So I had a portfolio of anywhere between 18 and 25 companies at any time, where I was kind of responsible for underwriting their loans, whether it was their revolving credit facilities, their term loan facilities, and kind of doing the analysis, the modeling, the risks and mitigating factors, and making the loan recommendations to our team at Wells across a lot of different companies and a lot of different industries. And as I progressed through there, we would get pulled into some M&A deals and bigger real-time deals where we would kind of underwrite big loans for and work hand in hand with the investment bank to kind of do a little bit more intricate and fun real-time deals that are not as repetitive over the course of years. And a lot of those deals that I was eventually pulled into started to drift more and more into media and entertainment and that sector specifically. So I was there for about 4 years, knew that I wanted to do something different than services. I kind of wanted to be at a corporate company and really be part of finding the solution on how to grow something, as opposed to mitigating downside potential losses. So used that time, looked around, and decided to go back to business school to get my MBA, and figured that would be the best time to kind of take some time, get some real business chops, acumen class wise that I wasn't able to get at Amherst. Um, and that enrolled in 2016 at Harvard Business School. So I was there for 2 years. My summer between my 2 years, I worked at MSG, and they had an intern position that they had just started in the strategy and corporate development group, which I was able to get and was very fortunate to get, and worked with those guys over the summer, basically doing a combination of things. One was short-term deal flow. So working on their esports acquisition at the time, which was called Counter Logic Gaming, which they've since sold off.
Yeah,
Working with the ventures group on a lot of discrete immersive technology groups that they eventually bought shares of that they instituted in Sphere.
got it.
So some of the audio company or the audio technology and the visual technology that they eventually ended up using within the Sphere. And then the kind of second part of that was more on the overarching strategy side, looking at different potential locations to include more Sphere venues. And this was still at the time where Vegas was a few years away. Looking at overall um, ways to better monetize or continue to monetize strategically on the sports rights and the entertainment. This was about 2 or 3 stock splits ago, so all of the venues and the entertainment and the sports were all in the same public company in the MSG Entertainment Group. So that was my summer, which was fantastic. Went back to school my second year and ended up coming back to the Garden and helping them establish a MBA strategy rotational program, which I worked
Oh,
in
nice.
uh, yeah, right after school for about a year and a half. So the program was designed to have 4 rotations, 6 months each, where you work through a different piece of part of the business. My first one was in marketing partnerships, where I helped them establish a data and analytics group to work with our account managers and try to better give reporting insights to the account managers to share with their clients, and then also use um, better set up an infrastructure and a framework for data to kind of go after sales prospects and try to find new prospects for different pieces and properties within MSG. The second rotation was within venue operations, which was one of the coolest things I've ever done. I worked for the head of the venue operations to try to improve ingress and egress across all of the different venues by literally going to all of the venues and just like observing, working with the GMs of each of the venues. The first thing I did was the Radio City Christmas Spectacular. So it was a big like operations problem basically, and
And
trying
you're
to
talking about foot traffic,
exactly. So
because in our world, ingress and egress also mean bits of data.
totally,
So
which is
yeah,
and that was the cool part. And there's
yeah.
these back to back schedules on the weekends where they have 5 shows in a day, and that you're kind of doing these trade offs between timing and revenue and where we put the lines. We never really had basically success metrics of like throughput, like how if someone started here, how long should it take for them to get through the metal detector? So doing all that and working with security and working with the GMs. So that was really cool. And then ended up doing the same thing for the Beacon Theater at Seinfeld, which was cool. And then went to the Garden for the last one for the Knicks and the Rangers. And then a couple of the smaller concert venues as well. Unfortunately, a lot of that good work, which was great, got wiped out with COVID when everything changed because this was pre-COVID, but it was very fun and interesting and like a different way to
Yeah.
use my brain and kind of allowed me to really um, see the fans' perspective, like very, very first and foremost. So that was really cool as well. And then last one, my rotation, I worked for the sports P&L basically, and kind of was the strategy support for the head of the sports P&L, and did that, working across all the different pieces of that P&L. Learned a ton there and was planning on kind of rolling into a role permanently within that group, which is what I wanted to do before the opportunity came all along with Yes and working with John and the role that I've grown into.
Dude, even I didn't know all
I
of
know,
these different
I
things.
know,
That's
never caught up
crazy.
on all that.
This
Yeah,
is there's a lot that I would love to learn more about. I'm sure the learnings from each one of those stints have helped you. So like then actually that brings me to Yes Network, because obviously for those of us in the industry, we've heard about all the awards that Yes Network has received right over the years, the Emmys, all the Sports Pro awards, all the SBJ awards. Clearly, you guys have been a leader in terms of adopting innovation, adopting different types of experiences from a UX standpoint, whether it's games and gamification, rewards. I feel like you have been the first off for many different work streams in the space. How much of that is a top down decision making? How much of that has helped the business? How much of that is just generally being open to taking risks? I'm very curious. This is an area that is particularly fascinating for what the podcast is all about, which is building the future of fandom.
I think it's a culture thing, honestly. I think it's one of the things that you kind of feel when you're here. I still kind of joke sometimes that I'm one of the newest people at Yes, and I've been here for 5.5 years. I think there's obviously some tongue in cheek to that as we've kind of developed, grown our team, especially on the digital side over the last few years. But there's a huge contingent who or especially in our production and programming side that have been here since day one in 2001. And I think there's a an understanding of the brand, an understanding of the fan that we have through institutional knowledge that we kind of always take in the decisions that we're making. Um, and I think it's something that John talks about when you talk about top down. Like I know this is probably preached to him, and it's something that we try to have in our conversations with our partners and our employees and people, our teammates. And I'm sure I've said it to you. And we have urgency behind kind of wanting to introduce something or bring something new or listen to the fans and kind of roll something out. We kind of always have the mindset of what we're what we're doing. The Yankees is it's not just baseball; it's the Yankees. It's like this separate brand that has so much passion behind it, and there's so much that there we can do and we want to do. And I think there's an understanding in taking those risks and pushing the envelope in ways that we think is important to ultimately get to where we want to go. They're going to bear with us. They understand that things don't happen instantaneously, and that if we want to kind of build something that's worth building, you have to kind of push the envelope, take risks, whether it's on the linear side before what we're doing, where we're like the slow mo replays. I think we were the first people to do that, and I don't even remember when that was, years and years ago. And kind of the different graphics and features and things that we do on the broadcast every year, and then how does that permeate itself into what we're doing specifically on the digital side and trying to meet all of our fans wherever they are. And as that evolution continues to happen with respect to where people are watching, how people are watching, being more kind of shifting more sometimes from a passive to a more immersive experience, how do we kind of take chances and build things that all of our fans and that, or some of our fans at different points in time will want to use. So I think we have a really strong and understanding leadership team that empowers and encourages us to do that and to kind of make decisions that are all in the investment for the name of the fan.
That's helpful, and it's really helpful to understand the cultural aspect within fan engagement. I mean, I've always maintained this, and I've said this to a lot of people in the industry as well, that you guys have been the smoothest partnership. I mean, knock on wood, like that we've had. Whether it was from the first time we started talking to you to the time we went live. I mean, the decision making was crystal clear. There wasn't dilly dallying. There wasn't like 6 months, 12 months. Like, it was the shortest cycle, because when we came to you guys, you were ready for it and you knew what you wanted. You had built the foundations, whether it was the data infrastructure, whether it was a CDP, whether it was all of the app was built in the right way to work with third parties. It's a very small tactical team. You're not a massive shop. You work with a few third parties, but they all work well together. And more of the focus was on project management and making sure those third parties work well together with you, rather than trying to build everything in house and stuff. I fail to understand why people in our industry don't do more of that, because in the long run, you're able to iterate faster and see the results way quicker than if you were trying to do a whole bunch of strategy sessions and consultants and design workshops and should we do this, etc. I thought it was
Totally.
the most impressive in terms of working with a partner.
No, I appreciate that. I think where you're getting at from a structure perspective, a team structure is really resonates in terms of the entire company and the entire firm. Like we operate in a way that is we really believe in the people that we have to kind of wear a lot of different hats and be very cross functional. I think we're less specialized with specific things, especially on in the groups that kind of work with me and are trying to push innovation. Because I mean, I masqueraded as a product manager, well, for the Yes app for the first couple years, and you kind of
Yeah.
just learn and you trust and you develop these relationships and you do. I mean, I'm sure you all of those kind of things you said, which is great. But as you remember, before we actually signed up with you guys, there was a lead process where we had to do a lot of diligence and kind of do a lot of the work that we
Yeah.
needed to do to be comfortable and understand what's the ROI on this situation. Is this the right time for us to do it? And I think there was a lot of preparation in order to do and that we're deliberate in the decisions that we make and the partners that we choose to be with. And I think having flexibility and that nimbleness in our partners, in addition to us, like you got to be all in, as I'm sure I've told you guys before, to like we might have something that comes up on a Tuesday at 8 p.m. during a game that we're going to need a bridge up in 10 minutes, and we expect and know that we'll be there, so that the partners that we choose also to do that. And if that is reciprocated and we kind of see that from the people that we work with, they're basically part of the team. So I think it's kind of always how I've built our team and how the other people in our organization do, whereas it's an extension of the team that we have to try to cut down on inefficiencies and really make allow us to position ourselves to make those changes, take those chances, and to your point, like we can theorize as much as we want about how we should introduce something, how we should set something up, but until it's in the market, until we see it in action, we're not going to have an idea of what to do next and how to make it better. And although we're never going to launch something and put our hands up and say that's it, right? It's going to be version 3, 4, 5, 20, 25, 30, and continuing to make it better and doing that in a way that's you're balancing testing, but also a production environment is kind of what we want to do. It's like good is the
No,
enemy.
and I'll say this. I mean, from personal experience, I think you guys have always been receptive to new ideas, and I think what's probably the most refreshing working in our industry is that there has never been a time in which I have been scared to bring a new idea to you guys, or our team has been scared to bring. You've always been receptive, and once it's out there, the data will tell you
Totally.
whether it works or not. You don't have to think too much about it. What you need to have though is the infrastructure to get that data. So
Right.
you can measure effectiveness and impact and ROI. But once
100%.
that foundation's in there, you can you can try out every different things. You can run micro experiments, you can do A/B testing, you can do segmentation. And I think that's the most important part as far as I'm concerned.
I agree, and I think if you I mean, I'll be biased, but we've had some bad ideas too, right? And I think if you don't have any bad ideas, that I think you're probably doing it
You
wrong
haven't
because
pushed the envelope.
correct, and I think that's kind of part of the situation that you want to take swings and you want to because I think the real way to understand, as you kind of mentioning, is you got to let the data come in, you got to let the fans have it in their hands and kind of provide feedback as to what's working, what wins, and what doesn't, and then kind of go from there and make decisions and be able to pivot fast if you need to, and if not, iterate and do better.
So speaking of that, then so you have obviously introduced a lot of new functionality over the years, whether it was the pick and play game, whether it was the rewards program, whether it's the celebrity drop-ins, and you've done a bunch of behind the scenes John Boy, your partnership with John Boy Media as well. Have you seen your audiences be receptive to it? Have you seen their audience, the audience and fan behavior shift over the years, especially as you've gone from MVPD only to more streaming and D2C over the years?
Yes. Short answer is yes, and I think it really it's interesting to see what grabs hold of the individual audience segments when you're talking about TV to DTC. I think the first couple of years that we launched the app, there was no direct consumer functionality. So we saw a lot of usage, understandably so, on mobile, tablet, web as kind of like a companion viewership to people who are on the go or moving. And then when they get home in front of their big screen, they have their cable box and they're watching exactly. So we saw some obviously connected device usage, but really a lot of the things that we were introducing were tailored to the mobile experience. So whether it was the live stats, whether it was some of the watch party functionality that you're talking about, the pick and play, the the, the games that we did were very focused and targeted towards that audience.
Yeah.
As we've moved and evolved over to emphasizing the direct consumer clientele as much as we do the TVE fans, it's now a totally different segment in terms of how they watch, where they watch, how they consume. So you have to make sure, and we have to make sure that we are both distributed across all the big screens, smart TVs, connected devices in ways that we're building out that functionality for those people and those viewers. Like we saw as an example, I think it was like double digit growth in streaming minutes per year over the last few years across the connected devices, and then things like the pick and play, or excuse me, the live stats overlays on our connected devices has grown substantially, like over 2 times year over year, as that base continues to grow within that distribution platform. And then now we kind of want to shift towards how can we create the mobile experience to be a tandem experience with the connected devices for those direct consumer users that could also then still have that experience for the TV users who are watching it on mobile web and then sometimes in the connected devices. So it's really when you're talking about is like data. How do we set up an infrastructure that can allow us to consume and understand real-time data, get insights, and then iterate on the product as we continue to go and emphasize the different pieces and pockets of things that we've tried to do. I think you talked about the video chat feature. We've actually evolved and moved more towards a chat feature and functionality that we've done
Yeah.
over the last year. And that kind of exploded in a way that was even more than we anticipated and saw and thought about, or people who are actually watching and chatting with strangers, or formerly strangers, but actually know each other during a live game. And the growth that we saw in that and the amount of people who are repeat users and coming back day over day, week over week to talk to each other and have that like moderated but healthy environment to kind of speak about sports was really, really cool. But I think now they think about it also is like it shouldn't have been that much of a surprise because the whole thesis behind community, right? Sports community is just how do we tap into what's the most convenient way for those people to connect with each other. And I think when you're at a game, when you're at a bar or you're watching at a restaurant, whatever it is, like that, there's an energy there that I think you want to replicate and you want to share that experience with fans and other people that you know. So I think the more we can do that to provide those experiences to the people who want to use it, right? And we have a lot of users who watch it with nothing on their screen and they just have a laid back experience. They watch the game, they turn it off, and that's it. And that's fantastic. And we're going to make sure to offer that the same way that we do everyone else. And if there's a little bit extra that we can do for other fans who want to be a little bit more immersed in the experience,
Yeah.
um, that's I think a real positive and thing that we've tried to build methodically over the last few years to kind of have that suite of options for our fans.
From a data perspective, are there any nuggets, anecdotal or quantitative, that you can share specifically related to the pick and play functionality in terms of how it has evolved fan behaviors?
The big pick and play, I think, shift that we did was from I think 2 3 years ago to this year, and I've talked to you about this before, but we kind of we changed the makeup of the game. Whereas before it was more of a passive game where you had options and the user had to go in, they click the menu, and then you had to pick the things that you wanted to choose, that you
Yeah.
wanted to make a prediction on. So is Aaron Judge going to hit a home run this inning, or and then there was odds that kind of updated in real time. But there was it was a set menu of options that stayed there. It was pretty static that kind of repeated day over day for a
Yeah.
couple of years. And we eventually saw the interest in the usage in that wane. So we kind of thought, went back to the table, had conversations internally with our partners, and thought, what can we do to make it a more proactive experience? So instead of having the menu of 15 different things you could do, why don't we ask one question and say and kind of and hit the user with it. So you just have to click a button and answer yes or no. That's not 6 clicks to kind of find something, surface something, and then make your own decisions, which I think is very still resonates with like a very deep and power user, as we would call it, who still have the use for that. But how do we bring more people in and kind of get a bigger audience who kind of use it day over day? And that really worked. And I think we saw a huge jump. I think it was like something like 30% growth this year in pick and play
Nice.
usage from users' perspective over the course of the baseball season with that new proactive approach that we were able to kind of hone and change and iterate over the course of the season once we kind of saw what questions resonated more, what questions um, kind of hit a chord with our fans over different points of the game, different times that we were watching it. And I think that's kind of stuff is what I love because we can kind of continue to build on it and do even more for next season and for the next season that's coming right now.
Yeah, no, and that's awesome. I mean, actually, that sort of dovetails really nicely into more of the gamification and the reward stuff that you guys have launched as well. I mean, obviously, you have brought in a lot of different functionalities and touch points together as part of this program. You're gamifying watch and play, combining different actions and behaviors together, trying to cross pollinate across different
Yep.
fandom, like fan behaviors. If someone who's watching a lot, how do you get them to play a lot? Or how do you get your core power players to come and consume more as well? I think you guys have fed in certain sponsored content in there behind the
Good.
scenes. What are the core KPIs? I mean, this is more less for me, but more for the audience, you know, so that, who are asking themselves the same question, like, how do you drive ROI in these initiatives? What are the core KPIs that you guys think through, whether it's retention, acquisition, monetization across these types of initiatives?
Yeah, I think the short answer is all the things you just said, but I think from a simple perspective, we were able to monetize through direct to consumer subscriptions and advertisements and sponsorships. So more top of funnel users and fans that we get to come in and then push them down the funnel so they spend more time with us, the more impressions and that we can be able to generate and monetize from that perspective. So and that's across whether it's TVE or direct consumer user. So I think the point that you're driving towards the rewards was when I first spoke to you about it is we have a lot of these great functions and ways to watch the game that could be seen while it's in our own ecosystem and kind of has the yes and now Gotham branding around it, um, as discrete pieces and choices that a user can make. So how do we incentivize users to watch different pieces of content, engage with different things and features and functions during the game. And then if you're a fan of one or two teams and you have a TVE package that includes both MSG and yes, and or you have a Gotham all you can eat package, we call it, where you can have
Yeah.
access to all the teams. How do we kind of cross viewership and cross pollinate those viewers? So the rewards program to us was like a really nice way to have connective tissue across those different things. Um, and provide incentives for users to try and use and repeat actions of a lot of those different elements that we're talking through. So I think from an acquisition perspective, I think maybe it'd be less acquisition to the actual platform itself, but more acquisition to each of the individual pieces and products that we're offering throughout the service. So play a game, watch this team, try out this new original series and things like that. So we're getting more people into those individual discrete pieces of the service. And then once they do, they're watching for longer periods of time. So we're getting that repeat usage, more impressions that we're able to monetize, let alone the actual sponsored ability for some of these features that we've been able to put sponsors behind. And then when you're talking about a direct consumer user who we want to push from a monthly user to an annual user to a Gotham annual user, whether it's on the MSG or the Yes individual side. I
Yeah.
think the more things that we can offer them and provide them value over the course of not just the game times, but during the days and during the months, where now we're very fortunate that we have um, programming, uh, top tier programming all year, right? We
Yeah.
have the winter, all the basketball teams and all the hockey teams in the winter within our region in New York, and then we have the Yankees in the summer. So I think we're able to kind of offer and provide that in a way where there's real value there. That the more users come back and create those habits through the rewards program, and then are able to redeem those points and those things um, for considerations and things for themselves, we have seen on the direct consumer side that it's helped retention for sure for those monthly users month over month. In terms of trying to dig in a little bit more, obviously, and there's a whole thing on correlation and causation, but the users who use it and actively use it and redeem versus the users who don't, there's definitely a difference there in terms of tenure. And those power users that I talked about before who do everything, they can't get enough of whatever we do. And we're trying to get as many people there and as we can.
What we are trying to get out of this conversation with you, especially specifically, is how you look at it as a holistic strategy. It's a revenue strategy, it's a retention strategy, it's a churn mitigation strategy. How do you get, we have seen this, if someone is trying to unsubscribe during off season, if you stick around for the next few months watching this other team, you will not lose your points, or you won't lose all of your accumulated rewards or accumulated fandom. It could also be, gyms have been doing this for a long time. If you're traveling somewhere for 3 months, pause your membership for 30% discount or 30% of the price, or for a flat fee, just because reacquiring a user is so much harder
Totally.
than keeping them there, even if at a lower price, and picking it back up. Now, doing this digitally at scale in a personalized fashion, not in a hand-to-hand combat, that's where the value really comes.
Yeah.
And that's why we enjoy working with your team in terms of like coming up with all of these ideas and strategies. And it's cool to see your team come up with, where they are now coming up with all of these ideas and pushing us on, hey, can the platform support it?
Of course. I think you're exactly right. And I think I'm really excited now that we're coming up on our 1 year since we launched Gotham, because I think now we're able to really hopefully rev up the engines and do a lot of the experimentation and a lot of the things that you're talking about across all of our different teams. all of our different properties and really lean in even more, which I know we've already started having discussions with you guys about what that looks like.
Yeah.
Because I just think there's a ton of opportunity still to go there, that we're keen on tapping into.
And I feel like for the first time in a long time, I've lived in New York now. I wouldn't call myself a New York native by any means, but I've lived here for the last, give or take, 17, 18 years now.
Hmm.
Like, there is a real energy around all New York sports at the
Yeah,
moment.
I
Like, it's
agree.
there's momentum behind teams that are not part of the Gotham or Yes ecosystem, and teams that are part. Obviously, you have a big chunk of the New York
Yeah.
area sports fandom underneath your umbrella at this point in time. So that, and just feels like there's a moment that we should be capitalizing on, or you should be capitalizing on, rather.
No, I totally agree. October's the best because we got the beginning of the season for the winter teams, and we got playoffs for baseball, and it's just you can sense it. There's a buzz when you walk outside, so it's a really fun time every year.
If we pull back the curtain, what's a decision or a pivot maybe that you made in the development of your digital platforms? And you've gone through quite a journey between Yes and then Gotham and replatforming and all of that stuff. Is there a decision that you guys made that in the development of your platforms that might surprise people? Maybe something that defied conventional wisdom, but you in your eyes has paid off. I think you've gone the route of pretty much everything through third parties.
Yeah,
You guys have not taken the route of let us build this in house, and you haven't also you also have not given everything to one, like people like to have one throat to choke, but I think there is value in daisy chaining across multiple third parties.
I think we're the throat to choke
That's
because
exactly
we're the
right,
ones
but
who have to manage. Yeah, and it's
and
all
then
kind
the
of on
trick
us.
here is how do you extract value out of each specialist organization, but make sure, so the onus is on you, not in terms
Yeah.
of building but coordinating, which not many companies do, or not many entities around the industry do.
No, I think it's a good point. I think it goes back to the team structure, right? And I think you are understand it probably better than most with respect to the needs that we have when we try to partner in the decision process, which is pretty arduous that we make before we decide to partner with someone and really look at it as a partnership, going forward, and understanding that the requirements are the flexibility and the transparency and ability to communicate at any time, right? Like when we're
Yeah.
talking about me being the throat to choke, and I'm thinking about like John, our CEO,
Yes.
I'm the person who's got to make sure that everything's kind of running in a way that works. And that only works if you and the other partners that we have that depend on each other in order to we're talking about, um, our data process and setting up the data infrastructure and that flowing with you guys from the rewards program. If that is not in sync and that doesn't work, then the whole thing's broken and you guys are each going to come to me and uh
You
and have
blame, like,
issues and
point the
problems.
finger. Yeah.
Correct, and I think that's been something that we've learned actually pretty how to set up the relationships and kinda manage those relationships in a way that I think a lot of it is like the partners that you choose, right? I think it's anything about relationships is in life is like the most important. I think that you do. I think I John likes to tell me like we're not saving lives here, although I'm sure there are people who if they can't watch the Yankees game like your buddy or the guy that you
Yeah.
mentioned couldn't watch the game is not having as good of a day. But I think it's important to kind of have that transparency, that communication, and I think we really feel very confident that we have the ability to manage, overall strategy, but that my expertise is not in the proficiency that you guys have from the specific tech side, and that I would rather have the experts and the people who have done this and the people who can be more nimble and have experience across other clients and other people work through those issues and problems with me and kind of make me smarter. And then I can kind of apply that to how it applies to us at Yes and Gotham. And I think that's just always how we've kind of been structured. I think we've, even with Gotham itself, like the organization that we've established in the joint venture, where it's a good blend of legacy Yes and MSG people who are working within Gotham, but there's a lot of third party partners that work across the board to make that thing run. And I think that it's a decision that we've stuck with that's worked with us. But I think again, it goes to a lot to the diligence and the ability of our partners to kind of work well with each other in a way that I think is necessary to make the whole thing run.
Absolutely. Has your personal fandom evolved over the years? Especially, obviously you've launched products and you've thought about how fans engage. Have you changed the way you engage with content and your teams
Yes.
during this journey? Yeah. Any
Yes.
any examples?
I've gone from watching on one, like, if I used to watch on one phone or one TV to everywhere and everything all at once, basically. Like any content that I can consume that could make us a little bit smarter, make me a little bit smarter in terms of what people are saying, how people are engaging. Um, I had a couple different streaming apps. Now I have every single one, and I'm sending screenshots to our product team if there's anything from from a delivery to a design perspective. So I think the way that it's probably changed is it's expanded in terms of the time consumption. Um, but I think at the core, it's just when the game's on, I am the same person as I was when I was 11 and went to Yankees playoffs games at the stadium and was had to turn around sometimes because I was too nervous about a pitch coming and make sure things happen. So I think in a lot of ways, my wife sometimes jokes and she's like, you helped build an app
Product for
for
yourself.
yourself that millions of people, and I was like, yeah, it's kind of,
But
it's
that's the
easy.
best way. I mean, I
Yeah.
keep asking most of the people. I was like, there are times when I'm working with partners, and I'm like, have you used your own product to
Yeah.
realize what's wrong or what's not working? You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
Like, if you use your product once, you could tell that the discovery process is broken, or the journey is not what it's meant to be, so to speak. So the fact that you've built a product for yourself is actually perfect.
And it's every day, every platform. I think the QA guys had to tell me to stop because the first 2 years I was the QA and I was as much the QA as anyone with our development team and kind of breaking it and figuring out what's wrong and adding input. And now we have a more built out product team and QA
Yes.
team with the Gotham that they kind of they don't send me the test flight until it's a little bit further down the line, which is, I guess, is good and bad.
That's awesome. That's also an evolution of your business
Yeah.
profile, I
I'll still
suppose.
get in there though. I'll always get in there and test. That's never going to change.
All right, there are a few questions that we ask all our guests. These are more standard questions, more meant to be more fun, snappy. But what's one tool or platform that you can't live without right now? And the answer can be the Gotham app.
I would say X. That's kind of where I get a lot of my Yankees news and clips, and where I'll understand like the sentiment of fans and see some knee jerk reactions to both Yes and Gotham as well as the team itself, and it's kind of a place that I use to kind of keep the pulse of the fan base.
Fair. That's a good answer. Which athlete or sports brand do you think really nails digital engagement?
The Yankees.
Yeah.
I
Fair.
think I had goosebumps every one of these playoff videos that they're sending out and clipping and before the games. I think feeding in with what we do and working with that team. I think it's true to the brand always, and I love what they do.
You're a patriot. um,
Not the Patriots though.
Not the Patriots,
I'm a
but
very sad, long suffering Dolphins fan. My dad grew up in Miami, so
oh, is that right?
yeah,
So you're a New York sports fan, but your NFL team is the Dolphins?
that's right. That's right.
Interesting. I mean, you
Dad,
also saved yourself a lot of misery with Giants fandom, so I don't know.
although they had some good runs, that the Dolphins have not. My
True,
dad
that's true.
came from Cuba and then snuck into I think the Orange Bowl when they went undefeated in 72 and 73, the Dolphins, and I've had no such luck in my fandom so far.
Fair. Okay, fair enough. If you were not working in sports, which industry would you be working in?
I don't know. I think my answer would be different now than it was a few years ago. I would probably say some sort of services, finance consulting, because I just like the problem solving element of that earlier. I think in the future, if I think I could see myself teaching professor or something like that. I would be
Oh,
really interested in.
interesting.
Yeah, I think I'd be really interested and find a lot of joy in that
That's
in a lot of
awesome.
years. I don't know what I would ever do in that realm, but I think the
I mean,
idea of it.
I hear Columbia has a great sports management
There you
program.
go. The
Uh,
idea of it is interesting to me.
that's awesome. And then last question, what's the one metric that you're obsessed with right now?
Minutes spent. So engage is like an engagement.
Okay.
I
Time
think
spent in the app is
time
what you're
spent
referring to.
within, yeah, I think overall within the games, within the features, I just engagement consumption to me and where it's happening, and what platform and kind of how that's evolved is probably what I just asked for before I got on this call. So probably at the top of my mind.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, no, that's a great answer. Okay, I think we're at time. I know you have a hard stop coming up, but this was awesome. Genuinely enjoyed the conversation. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, it was great. It's always great talking to you. So happy to do it, and I know we'll talk soon.
Thanks for listening to Future of Fandom. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow Live Like on LinkedIn for more conversations with the people shaping what's next in the world of sports and media. Until next time, keep building for fans, not just users.
The whole thesis behind community, right? Sports community is just how do we tap into what's the most convenient way for those people to connect with each other? There's an energy there that I think you want to replicate and you want to share that experience with fans and other people that you know.